everybody. Happy Saturday to you guys. I'm so happy that you have allowed me to be part of your Saturday and part of your creative journey. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Sarah. I am a designer for Beadalon, and I will be working primarily with Beadalon products, but Michael's as well, of course, because they are so gracious to let us be here to teach for you guys. Today's project is a fun one. This is an easy project that's going to appeal to all skill levels. This is a simple stringing project that we're going to break down into sections. I feel like I'm hoping to kind of demystify multi-strand designs, because I know that beginners in particular really kind of get caught off guard with how to get those multi-layers to work and to hang properly. So I'm going to show you how to break this down into sections instead of working in one huge piece. We will talk about that though, because that obviously is an option if that's the way you want to put your multi-strand designs together. But I really feel like breaking this down kind of makes this accessible to all skill levels, and that is definitely my goal. We're also showing off some amazing gemstone beads that are available at Michael's. These are all so beautiful. If you like purples and browns and deep, rich reds and kind of earthy browns and red tones, this design is going to be for you. However, if you don't particularly like this color palette, there is an option for you at Michael's. They have a ton of these beads in different color options. So you can find those that speak to you. All right, so I'm going to get you guys down on the mat. We're going to get started right away with this. Don't want to waste any time. I will go ahead and tell you though, this project, the main part of the project as far as the time is concerned is just with the stringing. The rest of this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to focus on crimping. That crimping technique is very, very important. Otherwise, it'll probably go by pretty quickly. All right, so let's get turned around and let's talk about the supplies that you're going to need to put this project together, which is really not a lot. The beads are definitely going to be the star of the show for this, and your bead stringing wire. I'm going to be using some bright bead stringing wire in 0.46 millimeter. This is 19 strand, which is a good middle of the road bead stringing wire for those of you who are beginners or intermediate. And it's going to give you the nice drape that you need to accomplish this project. Just a reminder for everybody who is new to bead stringing, or maybe just new to jewelry in general, the bead stringing wire is a flexible, soft wire. It's not a hard wire. It's a nice soft wire that you use to string your beads on. And when I refer to the 19 strands, what I'm talking about is 19 strands of tiny, tiny wire that has all been twisted together. And then it has this protective nylon coating on the outside of it. The more strands, right? This is middle of the road, so this is 19, but the more strands, because you can go up to 49 strand, the more supple, the more flexible, and the more drape that you're going to get out of your bead stringing wire. Also, something to mention, because this came up in one of my classes yesterday, is that on your packaging, Beadalon has supplied the answer to the question, what size findings do I need? That is all right here for you on the packaging, on the front and the back. I'll show that to you in just a second. So if you're using a 0.46 millimeter bead stringing wire, it tells you on the front of the package, you're going to need either a #1 crimp bead, or you're going to need a #2 crimp tube. Also, you can flip this over to the back, and not only is it going to tell you about this wire in particular, but it's going to tell you about the other wires and the other sizes of crimps that work with it. So for instance, if you were going to be working with a 0.53 bead stringing wire, it tells you you're going to need a #1 or a #2 crimp bead or a #2 crimp tube. So when you go to do your shopping, you can do all of the shopping based on what your packaging of your bead stringing wire says. It makes it a whole lot easier for you, and you don't have to guess about it. So very, very handy. You're going to need several strands of this. We'll talk about that in just a second, but let's talk about some of the other things you're going to need. Like I mentioned, the findings are super important. I'm going to be using #2 crimp tubes. I prefer a crimp tube, particularly if you're a beginner, just because they have a little bit more surface area than a crimp bead, but it is completely up to you. I'm using the tubes. You're also going to need some wire guardians, and we'll talk about those. If you're a beginner and you've never seen a wire guardian before, we'll talk about the what and the why of a wire guardian when we get to this point, which will be in just a couple of minutes. I also always have these on hand. This is my Beadalon Findings Variety Pack. This has my lobster clasps, their spring ring clasps, and then a whole selection of different sizes of jump rings. I like it because it's handy. I can just toss it to the side of my desk or throw it in my bag, and I've got everything I need. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the beads because they are, like I said, definitely the star of the show. So I'm sure I'm probably going to mess these up, but you guys can double check me in the materials list. So this is going to be our main focal. This is going to fall on the bottom tier of our necklace. If I can lower you down a little bit, it might brighten things up just a little bit. You can see how beautiful this is. Has the purples and reds and blues in this. This is the Imperial Jasper Teardrops. And again, this is going to be our focal. These are drilled across the top. You can see, so they're drilled right up here, not down here, which makes it hang on your bead string and wire beautifully. So I'm going to sit this to the side because that's our focal. Okay, we've got a couple of other things as well. We have these beautiful purple beads that look very similar, right? We're only going to use about 2 of these, so you're going to have leftovers of these to make matching earrings or matching bracelets if you want to. These are dyed Imperial Jasper. They are 12 by 16 millimeters, so a nice oval bead. And then these are my absolute favorite. So these are red tiger eye. And if you've never had the opportunity to work with red tiger eye, I highly, highly recommend it. It's not just red tiger eye, but it is silverite. So it has that facet that gives it an extra kind of shimmer and shine to it. They're really, really beautiful. And they kind of have the color palette that's included here is like the deep, deep brick reds, but then there's also a purple element to this. That's why I've included this into the project, because once you mix this with some purple beads, it really brings out that purple tone. There's also some gray in here, some brown in here, and of course, just plain red. But I think you'll see the purple kind of come alive when we mix it with our others. The other beads we're using are, I'm almost done with beads. This takes a lot of beads. That's why this is Gemstones Galore. We have these really cool Imperial Jasper dyed beads. These are just little rondelles. These are going to be part of the length section of our necklace. So I've got those ready. And then last but not least, one of my favorite things to include in stringing projects is seed beads. I know I've got some people out there who are not particularly a big fan of seed beads, but don't worry. We're using these as a stringing element. We're not going to be doing any stitching or bead weaving with this. If that's not your thing, that's okay. But I do want to encourage you to look at seed beads in a new way, because seed beads make great spacers, but they also add a great element of color and can help you to space out your focal, which is exactly what we're going to use ours for. So these are brown. They're more of a metallic kind of bronzy color, and they again work really well with our finished piece. So we're going to be using those. Those are 10s. Okay, so that's a size 10 on those seed beads. A couple of other things. I've got a bead board here to lay my design on. Now, the only issue with the bead board is that, of course, you can't see the entire thing as I am working. The only reason that I included this in the materials list was because I find that if you are a beginner, it's much easier to lay your design out on a bead board and kind of get an idea of your spacing and where you want things to lay. You can see mine's a mess with everything on it, but it kind of helps you to see how everything is going to fall. Okay. The only drawback to having a bead board is that when you're using seed beads, they're not particularly easy to pick up from the bead board. So I have a bead mat as well. I just wanted to kind of show you, we'll refer to this, but I think we're basically going to do this on the bead mat. Okay. But if you're a beginner, go for this bead board. And I got to tell you, there are some great some great projects on the Michael's YouTube where we break down the bead board and I show you exactly how to use it and how to measure with the bead board. Okay. All right. So with a multi-strand design, this is probably where I need to show you the bead board. Let me bring this back in here. So with a multi-strand design, you can go about this a couple of different ways. You can actually do a 2-strand design. And let me move the focal, that'll help a little bit for my little demonstration here. If you want to use one entire piece, okay, you absolutely can do that. Actually, you probably need to make at least 2 pieces of bead string and wire, but it seems to be a seamless piece. I consider that to be more of an advanced stringing technique where one strand is either going to be the entirety of your length of your necklace, which is up here, the part that goes around your neck, and the main drape, which is either going to be your bottom drape or your top drape. It really makes no difference if you're going to do this in, you know, one smooth piece. But then you're going to have to find an area to kind of branch off. So in other words, kind of helps for me to draw this out for you because again, my beadboard is a mess. So if you wanted to do your stringing project, again, here's the length, okay, up here, and then your main drape, either the bottom or the top, it makes no difference, just pick one, right? At some point, you're gonna need to double string, okay? So just imagine this is an extra strand of bead stringing wire, and then you're gonna branch out from a bead and break off for your second strand, right? This is completely doable and what is considered a little bit more advanced of a stringing project, okay? That is probably not going to be your best place to start if you're a beginner. For a beginner, it's much easier to break this down into sections. So you have this section here, this is length, right? 1, and then you have a section here, this is your length 2, okay? And then you've got a piece here, this is drape 1 or drape 2, and then you have this section here as your second drape. So instead of trying to make one piece work, right, you can have 4 pieces and connect them all together with a little connection point here on either side, and that's going to make things a whole lot easier for you, okay? At that point, you can make your drapes 10 drapes if you want to. It doesn't have to just stop at 2. You can really kind of make this a multi-drape design and not have to worry about having just one continual piece of bead string and wire or 2 that you've had to double strand. I hope that that makes sense to you guys. I feel like for beginners, this is definitely where you want to start. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so with ours, we're actually going to start with that bottom drape. And our bottom drape is going to be the one that contains our focal elements. Okay, so it hangs a little bit lower and it is a little bit heavier, which is why I picked the bottom drape to be the one that is going to support our focal. Okay, just to kind of rearrange these. Okay, just like so. Okay, so I've got this laid out. I know what beads are going to go in between here. We'll work on all of that in just a second, but let's focus on that crimp because that's where all of this gets started, right? If you don't have a good crimp connection, you do not have a piece that's going to last you a long time. So let's get started with that. Okay, you're going to take about a 15-inch piece of your bead stringing wire. You're going to need your crimp. You're going to need your wire guardians. So we're going to go ahead and get those pieces ready to go. So we've got our wire guardian here, and go ahead and dump out my crimps so that I have those ready to go. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to thread your crimp onto the end of your bead stringing wire. Okay, then you want to thread on your wire guardian. Now, if you'll remember when we first got started, I said we would talk about the where and the how and the why of the bead, or I'm sorry, the wire guardian. So let's talk about that really quickly. So before I thread this all the way through, your wire guardian is a horseshoe shaped, it's kind of like a little channel for your bead stringing wire to go through. Okay, so you thread your bead stringing wire up through one side, which is very much looks like a bead, right? It's a little tube. Then there's a channel that comes across the top where your bead stringing wire lays within, and then you're going to take your bead stringing wire back down through your wire guardian and then back down through your crimp. Now, why does this matter? This matters because this is a protective layer. It's a guard, just like in the name. It's going to guard that nylon coating. Remember that we talked about that nylon coating that is holding all those 19 strands of wire together. It's going to protect that coating from any kind of abrasion. The abrasion happens when that bead stringing wire comes in contact with other findings, whether it is part of a component or if it is your clasp or a jump ring. That jump ring, clasp, component, whatever it is going to move against your bead stringing wire, and over time will break down that nylon coating. That leaves your 19 strands unprotected. They can fray. And that's where you'll have jewelry failure and your strand will break, right? The wire guardian is just an extra layer of protection so that what is touching here is actually the metal of the wire guardian against the metal of whatever your component finding, jump rings, whatever. So it's just a nice little barrier between the two to protect that bead stringing wire. That's going to be your first line of defense for the longevity of your piece. The next line of defense is going to be your crimp, and proper crimp technique is what's going to make or break your piece of jewelry. You want to be sure that before you crimp, those wires inside the crimp are running parallel inside. Okay, so you can look, know if you can see or not, you can see how those wires inside that tube are running parallel. They're not crossing over each other. They are not even touching when I separate them out like this with my fingers inside that crimp. That's exactly what you want, because again, when they rub up against each other, that's another point of abrasion, right? That's another point of failure potentially. So you want those to run parallel within your crimp tube, crimp bead, whichever. Then you're going to come in with your crimper tool, and your crimper tool, that back notch of the crimper tool has a little tooth. It looks like a piece of macaroni, right? That tooth comes down, and that is going to further separate the wires within your crimp. So they are no longer touching at all. It's going to kind of create a wall between them. So you can look, see how they're nice and separated inside that crimp. Right? The next thing you want to do is you want to take it and turn it sideways and put it in the front notch and give it a squeeze. This doesn't do anything other than just make it more compact, right? It just tidies it up so it's nice and small. So at this point, you could put a crimp cover over it if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave mine just like it is. But you want to do the tug test to make sure that you got a good crimp on that. If you've crimped properly, your necklace is going to last a lifetime. Okay. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to come in, we want to trim off the excess, because if you've crimped properly, you don't need any other safety features. You don't need to feel like you need to thread a tail of wire down through your beads so that you have double strand. None of that's necessary if you have crimped properly, okay? All right, so now we're ready to get started, right? This is the most important part. That's why we took some extra time here. Now we're ready to thread our beads on. And for our beads, we're going to thread on, let's see here. I always want to pull up the picture so that I make sure that I I do it just like I did in the original. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to thread on. We're going to have some of these little seed beads, right? So I'm going to thread on a seed bead. It's my first bead of this bottom strand. Now remember, this is the bottom strand, okay? Then I'm going to thread on a tiger's eye or a tiger eye bead. Another of our seed beads and another tiger eye. So we're going to do a total of 12 tiger eye beads with our seed beads in between. Okay. We're going to drop those down so that they come right up next to where you have crimped. Okay. And we're just going to keep going. So again, remember, I said the longest part of this is really going to be just the stringing part, because stringing these little seed beads does take a little bit of time. Can't go fast when you've got seed beads involved in a project. That's kind of the only drawback, because I feel like it's really worth it in the end, because they make such beautiful little spacers. You can use seed beads in any color to tie your designs together, but they do take a they take a minute to pick up because they're tiny, right? And sometimes they don't want to behave. They run all over your bead mat. So we're going to thread on, making sure that we put a seed bead in between each one of our tiger eye beads. And you'll start to see all of this take shape once we get that focal. So that will obviously be in the middle. Now, there is another little tool that's included in the materials list I wanted to talk about as we are going along here. If for some reason you need to stop what you're doing, you need to get up, you know, you gotta, I don't know, whatever, you have some sort of distraction and you need to get up and leave your work. Well, when I'm using seed beads, I'm always hesitant to leave a strand unattended because you just never know. I'm telling you, when you turn your back, the seed beads, they tend to riot and just do their own thing. And I don't know, sometimes they find their way off of the bead stringing wire. So you can use a little bead bug. Mine is red. They come in, I think the ones at Michael's are the yellow or white, I believe, but it's just a little spring, and you just pop that right onto your bead string wire, and that's going to hold all your beads. So if you have to walk away from your work and maybe you have a cat that likes to get up on your table and knock things off, this is a great way to save yourself some sentence enhancers, because those usually fly, right? When you come back to your work and it's all over the floor. I like to have those on hand, particularly when I'm working with multi-strand designs, because I don't have to finish the strand. I can pop one of those on there and lay everything out and kind of look at the spacing. And then if I need to make any adjustments, that definitely helps, right? So, all right, we're coming to the end of our tiger eye beads for one side. Let's go ahead and count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I said 12, and now here I have 14 of them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, how did I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I just cannot count today at all, you guys. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Oh my goodness. I'm going to blame it on weekend brain. Okay. That's a thing. To count those at least 4 times just to make sure. Weekend brain. It affects us all, right? All right. So I have all of my tiger eye beads and I have my seed beads in between there. Now, what I want to do is I ended with a seed bead, but I want to thread on 3 more seed beads, because now we're going to work in little sections of 4. So I'll have 4 little seed beads here, right? And we're ready to add our first of our focal drops. I'm going to go ahead and thread that on. Okay. Now, I want these to be spaced out a little bit from each other. So again, this is where our seed beads is going to come in handy. I'm going to thread on 4 seed beads. Oops. See those seed beads, they just don't want to cooperate. I don't like it when I have to pick them up individually, but sometimes they insist. So we're just going to go with it, right? Okay. So there's 4 seed beads. I'm going to thread on the next one of my focals. Okay. You can see how those seed beads kind of help to space this out, to space out these great big teardrops so that they're going to hang nice and even. Okay, we're going to do 4 more seed beads. Okay, we're going to thread on the center teardrop. Okay, and we're going to do 4 more. Drop that down. The next of the teardrops. 4 more. Okay, and our last teardrop, and we're going to finish that off with 4 more seed beads, and then we're going to pick back up our pattern of our tiger eye beads. Now you can use any pattern that you want to. The techniques are basically going to be the same. So feel free to make this, you know, look however you want it to look. You don't want to use the same pattern I'm using, that's totally fine. Okay. We're going to add 12 more of our tiger eye with our seed beads in between. Whoops. All right. Now that I have them all here, don't have to count them 6 more times. I know I have the right amount. And we'll just thread these on as quickly as we can. And then we're going to finish off this strand and move on to the next strand. So we don't have to worry about trying to find a place to sneak in a second bead stringing wire and then sneak it back out to make another drape for our necklace. We're going to do all of this in sections. And that also gives us an opportunity to practice our crimping, which is really important. Had a class yesterday and someone told me that they were still smashing their crimps flat. And I got to tell you, I was guilty of the same thing when I very first started making jewelry. I think everybody kind of goes through that because they don't know, you know, they don't know the proper crimping technique or the tools that are available to make it easier for you. And so we talked about it. We talked about why you don't want to smash that crimp flat. You smash the crimp flat on the bead stringing wire, you're smashing metal up against that nylon coating that we talked about. And that is one surefire way to cut in to not just the nylon coating, but those 19 or 49 strands of your bead stringing wire. And you've already kind of set yourself up for failure at that point, right? All right, so we have our bottom strand of our necklace is ready to go. Okay, we're going to go ahead and crimp. So we're going to thread on our crimp tube. We're going to thread on another wire guardian. Okay, so go through the wire guardian and then down through the wire guardian and then down through our crimp tube. Pull everything down. Okay. And now we're going to get ready to crimp again. So we're going to do this the exact same way we did, when we got started. Now, the only difference here is this is the one crimp out of the 2 that people struggle with the most. And the reason that this is the most difficult is because instead of having your crimp and your wire guardian in a nice big open area of bead stringing wire to get your tool in there, now we've crowded that up with some beads, right? So it's a much smaller space that we're working in. There's a couple of things you can do to make that a little bit easier on yourself. You can take your bead stringing wire and you can go down through a bead or 2, and that is going to give you a different point to pull on your bead stringing wire, right? That may help to give you a little bit more room to get your crimper tool in there. The only thing is that a lot of times when I'm using seed beads, I find that the seed beads don't play well with 2 strands of bead stringing wire. So for this project in particular, I'm not going to do that. But if you're not using seed beads, you definitely can take your bead stringing wire through a bead or 2, and that gives you a little bit more room up here. But it's all still very, very important. You want to be sure that your bead stringing wire is not crossing within your crimp, and you want to place that crimp into the back notch of the crimper tool and give it a squeeze. That's going to help to further separate out the wires within the crimp tube. You want to turn it sideways and place it into the front notch and give it a squeeze. That's just going to make it more compact. Okay, So at this point, we want to come in and we want to cut off the extra bead stringing wire. So we don't have that tail. And our first drape of our necklace is ready to go. Okay, so we have this whole bottom row. It's ready. Okay. All right, so now we're going to jump up and we're going to work on the next drape of our necklace, right? So we're just doing the exact same steps, just mixing up the beads a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to sit this one to the side because it's ready when we're ready to construct the entire design. Okay, and for our next row, we're going to use about 20 seed beads, and then we're going to use about 31 of our tiger eye beads. Okay, now to save just a little bit of time, I know it doesn't save a lot of time, but I was kind of planning in advance a little bit, and also an opportunity to show you guys where I was using my little bead stopper. I went ahead and pre-crimped this one on the end and thread on my first little bit of seed beads. Now I know that doesn't save a whole lot of time, but I think in the end it kind of will, because that's a lot of seed beads, right? So now we're ready to pick up. We're just going to thread on our tiger eye beads, and this time we're not going to put any seed beads in between them. We're just going to thread them straight on, just one right after another, and then we're gonna finish this off with another little section of seed beads. Now, some of you may be asking, what are the seed beads in the beginning and the end for? Is that just a design choice? And the answer to that is actually no. I'm going to show you after I get this whole strand ready. I'm going to show you why it is that I chose to start and stop this strand with a section of seed beads. Actually a really good reason for that. So let's thread our beads on first.
While we're threading those beads, I actually did see a question here. If we could interrupt here for a second. Peggy wanted to know the I believe it was the size. Hold on, I gotta find the exact wording. There it is. The size of the center focal stones.
The size of the center focal stones. Wow, that is a really good question. So I'm gonna have to get a ruler to answer that one, but I definitely can. They're pretty large, no joke. They are pretty large, but what's pretty cool about them is because they're that kind of composite, they're not super heavy. So don't be deterred by the size for sure. Don't let that throw you off. Let me lay these out here and we'll answer that question. That's a good one. All right, so Peggy, I know Peggy's making me do math. So for the main teardrop in the center here, it's a pretty big size. That's right at 2 inches from top to bottom. And then across, it is about 1.25 inches across. That's the biggest stone out of all 5 of them. And the area where the drill is, which is usually a pretty important question, is right about 1/2 inch. And all of them all the way across are drilled pretty much right at 1/2 inch. They all measure about 2 inches from top to bottom. The widest section of the smaller ones being about 1 inch at their widest point. So I hope that helped. Yeah, they're pretty big. No joke. They definitely are as big as they appear on screen. All right. So I think I saw a question about seed beads, how many seed beads to start with right here. And I put about 20 seed beads there. More than anything, you just want to be sure that you've got about 1 inch worth of seed beads, maybe 1.5 inches. The count number is not going to be nearly as important as just kind of the length here. And you'll see why in just a second. Let me get the rest of these tiger eye beads. We just got a couple more to go, and then we're going to finish this off with seed beads. All right, I'm going to stop right here for just a second. I'm going to put my little bead stopper on the wire, and I'm going to lay this next to, because I still have to do the seed beads on here, but I want to lay this up where you can see how the two pieces are going to lay in the overall design. So part of the reason I feel like one of these is much shorter. I don't understand why. I think we need to take some of these off. Let's see. Let's take a few of these off. I want that strand to be a little bit shorter. I know you can't see, so I'm going to move this up here. You can see I want there to be a nice amount of space here. Now, the reason why I started with seed beads on this second strand, a lot of times with multi-strand designs, I find that if you are bundling multi-strands together with two strands, it's not nearly as important, but with 3, 4, 5 more strands, it becomes very crowded in the area where your multi-strands are coming together to one point. So if you will take something smaller, like a seed bead or a 4mm bead, something small, right? And use those to finish off the end of that strand, it keeps things less crowded when you are bringing your strands together. That keeps your focal elements here nice in the front, and you can still see everything and appreciate all of the beads, but it keeps things from being this big bulky mess over here where you're trying to pull everything down. So that's why this inner strand is going to start and stop with seed beads. Okay. All right. So now I just want to finish off with some of the seed beads, and I want to be sure that I have roughly the same amount of seed beads so that everything is even. So, and you can see how laying things out, having the bead board, that's a really good opportunity, whereas I'm just working on the mat, but it's a really good opportunity to lay this into the bead board so that you can see the spacing of those two strands and how they're going to hang, right? Because you can't put them on a bust or on your neck just yet, right? You can't hang them on anything because the strands are not finished, but you can make those adjustments before you finish off the strands. So I'm just going to thread on these seed beads. Again, this is the part that really kind of takes the most amount of time here. Okay. All right. So there are all my seed beads. I'm just going to lay them up against the seed beads that are already on the strand. Just kind of eyeball it. All right. Looks pretty even to me. If it's off by 1, I'm not going to sweat it. Now, if it was off by 4, it would definitely make a difference in the length, but for the most part, that looks nice and even. So we're going to come in and we're going to crimp. So I've got my wire guardian and my crimp tube. Okay. We're going to thread on the crimp tube, wire guardian, back down the wire guardian, back down through the crimp tube, pull everything down. Okay. And again, you want to be sure that your bead string wire is not crossing inside that crimp. Hold everything in place. Always feels like you need more hands. Okay. And crimp in that back notch. That's going to further separate out your bead stringing wire within the tube or bead. Turn it sideways, put it in the front notch, and just give it a little squeeze. And then you're going to come in with your cutter tool and trim off. Now we only have 2 more sections, and then we're going to bring all of this together so that it actually looks like a necklace, right? So there is our short strand. Here's our longer strand. Okay, when we bring those together, you can see they're going to hang. There's going to be about 1.5 inches worth of space at the longest point of the drape. Okay. I'm going to sit this to the side and we're going to work on the 2 sections of length. Now, one of them I've already done just to, again, save some time because I know this project can be a little bit long. So one of them is already ready. That's the length of one side. We're going to do the other one real quick. We are going to do a little bit of wire wrapping just for fun because you guys who've been with me forever know that wire wrapping is my jewelry love language and I can't not do a little wire wrap. So I'm going to do that as well. The little piece of wire for our little connections, but let's do this part first. Okay. So 2 crimp or wire guardians, 2 crimps, and our little rondelle beads. Okay, so let's get this strand started. Okay, wire or a crimp, wire guardian. Go back down through the wire guardian, down through the crimp. Okay, separate those wires. I'm going to come in with your crimper. Give it a squeeze. Okay, turn it sideways, put it in the front notch and give that a squeeze. And in with your cutter, trim off. Okay, all right, now we're just going to straight string these little rondelles because they look so pretty all stacked up together. I didn't want to separate them out with any kind of little seed bead just because I feel like they look so nice all lined up. But again, that's just my choice. You can definitely throw in some of those tiger eye beads in here, some seed beads, and make whatever pattern you want to. So with these stringing projects, though this one does use a lot of beads, this would be what I would consider definitely a statement piece. If you are running, you know, a website, if you've got an Etsy site or you've got a craft booth, you've got craft fairs coming up, these are definitely going to be the ones that you're going to want to have separated out from the rest of your pieces so that they can really be seen. And obviously you want to price these a little bit higher because I mean, they take a little bit more time. But again, stringing is a technique all in itself. I've said that a bunch and I always try to tell people though stringing is relatively simple. It's beautiful, right? Just putting beautiful beads together is beautiful. It's good for the soul to just string pretty things together. One bead short here. And beautiful jewelry does not have to be a representation of every single skill you've ever learned in jewelry making. So sometimes just stringing beautiful beads is all you need to do, right? You've got a beautiful statement piece. All right, so we're going to finish this one off with a crimp. Do a little wire wrapping, and then we're going to put all of this together to make one singular beautiful piece of jewelry. Right? So bringing that all down. Now, this is an opportunity, right, to take your bead stringing wire, like we talked about, through a bead or two, just to give yourself a little bit more room to get your crimper in there. So I'm going to take this down through a couple of beads. Pull. Now, when I go to pull, I'm not doing that right up here where I need to get my tool in to crimp, right? I can pull down here, making sure that everything is nice and snug. Whoops, and make it a little more compact, right? and then trim off the excess. And you're going to trim off down here between some beads instead of right up there next to your work. Right. That also kind of helps your crimp to sit more centered with your bead instead of off to the side. Okay. Okay. So we have our two linked sections, this one for the left, one for the right. Okay. So that's all going to come together here in just a second. You'll see how all of this is going to come together with just some jump rings. It's really hard for you to see all of this in one shot because it is such a long necklace, but we need our little point here. Now, I'm going to do some wire wrapping with a bead just because I like that. If you don't want to do that, you can just use, you know, a jump ring right here and connect your 3 strands all together with a jump ring. But I want to use it as an opportunity to throw in an extra bead because they're gorgeous, and why not? So we're going to do a little wire wrapping. You're just going to need 2 short little pieces of 22 gauge wire. I like to use German style wire for my wire wrapping. You're only going to need about 3 inches. If wire wrapping is not your thing, just use jump rings, right? So I've got 2 pieces, and I'm going to start with one, and we're going to make a wrapped loop, okay? So from the top of my wire, I'm going to come down about an inch, inch and a half, something like that, a comfortable amount to make wraps with. Holding with my chain nose pliers, I'm going to give that wire a bend. Okay, I'm going to make this backwards 7 shape. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to take the wire up and over the top barrel of the round nose pliers. Okay, now that doesn't create a closed loop yet. In fact, I can't close that loop at all because the bottom barrel of the pliers is in the way. So what I need to do is I need to move this bottom barrel up to the top. And to do that, I don't have to take my wire away from the tool and reposition. All I need to do is just rotate, right? Now that I've rotated and made that bottom barrel the top barrel, I can take the wire all the way over, and that's going to close up my loop, right? So when I do take it off of the tool, you can see I've got a closed up loop. Okay. I'm going to switch hands, and I'm going to take that little tail of wire, and I'm going to wire wrap underneath the loop about 3 times. So we've basically just created a wrapped eye pin. Okay. I'm going to come in with my cutter, trim off the excess. We're going to thread on one of these beautiful beads, and then we're going to wire wrap on the other side to finish this off. And then we're just going to repeat that with 1 more bead, and we will be done. Okay. So bending the wire over the top of the pliers. So that way, when I take it away, I have the pre-measured amount of space there for my wraps. I don't have to bring in my ruler. I don't have to do any guessing. Let the pliers do all the work for me. Okay. Take the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers, rotate those in my hand, take the wire over to the other side, and then wire wrap in the space between the loop you just created and the top of the bead. Okay. We're going to come in with our cutter tool and trim off. This one is complete. We're going to repeat this on another bead, and then our entire necklace will be ready to assemble. Okay, so let's just repeat. Coming down on our wire, making a bend, round nose pliers up and over, rotate, take the wire over to the other side. I'm going to switch hands, wire wrap underneath that loop, come in with the cutter, trimming off what doesn't need to be there, threading on our bead, and we're going to repeat. Pliers, bend, round nose pliers, up and over, rotate the wire over, wire wrap. Okay, and now we are ready to trim off the excess. All right, now we're ready to assemble. We've got all of the elements needed to put together a necklace that I know you are not going to be able to fully appreciate until I turn you back around, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to use some jump rings from my Findings Variety Pack. Okay, I'm going to take a jump ring between two pairs of pliers, and I'm just going to twist to open. I'm going to thread on my longest strand, my shorter strand, and one of the loops from the bead that I just wire wrapped. And then I'm going to close that back. Okay, two pairs of pliers and just twist to close. I'm going to repeat that on the top with another jump ring. So open a jump ring, thread that onto the loop of that bead, and then thread on one of the length sections and twist to close. I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, open, shorter strand, longer strand, loop from a bead and close. Okay, same thing, another jump ring onto the loop on the top of the bead and our length section on that side. And then the last thing to do is to add our hardware to the ends of our length sections. So all that needs to be is whatever you want it to be. I'm just using two jump rings and a lobster clasp. If you want to add something decorative here, you absolutely can. I'm just going to use one of the lobster clasps that was in my Findings Variety Pack. The jump ring, the clasp, and a jump ring for the other side. Now you can add an extension chain to this if you want to, if you're going to sell this. I always recommend adding extension chains to bracelets and necklaces because everybody likes to wear their jewelry at different lengths, right? So an extension chain would be a good addition. But if you're just making it for yourself or someone and you know the length that they want, then that's all you need. Now, I know you can't fully appreciate this until I turn you around. So I'm not going to waste any time because I know you want to see this finished product. So I'm going to turn you around and we are going to grab our necklace bust here and put this on so that you can see what it looks like. Because it definitely looks different hanging than it does laying flat. You can see. So we have this beautiful, definitely a statement piece, right? It's definitely a statement piece. You could go all the way with this if you wanted to. Since I'm talking to jewelry makers out there, I know a lot of you are very much extra. I am too. If you wanted to add more strands, you could potentially add, you know, at least 2 or 3 more strands in here, an extra strand in between here. You could put some pieces of chain in here if you wanted to. You really can adjust this to suit your personality for sure. If you want your teardrops to be spaced out even more, you can add extra seed beads in between each one of those. I definitely recommend keeping those on the bottom strand of your multi-strand design though, because they are heavier than everything else. It's not a heavy piece to wear at all, but I mean, gravity is a thing. And so obviously the heavier pieces are going to pull down a little bit more. So yeah. But you've got all of these beautiful tones of purples and browns and kind of brick reds that are going to go with a lot of different outfits, right? I mean, you know, or you just pick this out and pick the clothes to go with it. This is definitely one of those pieces where the clothes come second, kind of, at least in my opinion. So there you go. But I hope that this has been a good class for you guys and you have seen that it is much easier, particularly for beginners, to do things in sections, 4 sections as opposed to one big long section that can really kind of stress your brain out. This is definitely breaking things down and taking it to a place that is a lot easier to manage. I want to see, just out of curiosity, if I were to, and now this is a bad example, just because we have hardware attached and everything. But those 2 strands that we were using as the links, take the hardware away from those, make it one single piece, and you could make a 3-strand necklace with those exact same beads, and just maybe add chain maybe for the length, or leather pieces for the length. Like, this is definitely a convertible little setup here that you could get a couple of different looks out of just this configuration of beads, right? Just by changing it up a little bit. I think that's pretty awesome too. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me for this project. I hope that you have enjoyed this class. I hope that I have inspired you to tackle those multi-strand designs. Don't let them be intimidating to you. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. I've got another fun class coming up not too far from now, so be looking for that, to sign up for that, and check out all of the other amazing classes that are available on the Michaels website. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys again soon.